We're going to dive a little bit here into the Bulls contention status. Are they contenders? Are they pretenders? Obviously, they're playoff contenders. We know that. Shut the fuck up. We know that. Are they championship contenders? That's a legitimate question. The answer is no. But what else can they do? It's tough. They made a lot of changes this year already. DeMar DeRozan's playing awesome. Vucevic could be better. I mean, he could always be a better defender, obviously, but overall, he's still a great center for them. Levine's great. The addition of Lonzo Ball's been awesome. I think
Caruso.
Caruso's been great too. I think, you find a solid power forward that can slide in with Patrick Williams being out this year. You traded away Thaddeus Young. They got to get a power forward of some kind. I mean, I don't know how they can do it if they've already given up a lot of future picks. So I don't know if trying to give up more makes sense, to be honest. But maybe there's a guy on the buyout market that's going to be worth bringing in.
Yeah. I mean, uh, I don't see it. I can't make the decision if they're contenders. I don't even think so. So this is the first year the Bulls have been the Bulls, I think it's way too early to be like, are they contenders? I think you decide whether that's a thing after their first playoff run. I think their expectation is the second round. I think that's their goal this year. Anything further than that is gold. If they reach that, that's gold. If they get out in the first round, obviously there's a lot more to figure out because as we know, I mean, yeah, Vooch is struggling right now. He finally just had a good game last night. Uh, Only averaging 14 points, still doing his double thing, 11 rebounds, 4 assists. He's still pretty solid. I'm actually not that worried about him. People are. I mean, he struggled at he benefits a lot to knowing the system he's playing in. Like it took him how many years for the Magic, and then he started putting up crazy numbers. So I'm not too
Yeah, but
worried.
I
I think he'll
assumed
get
a
some.
lot of that was just of his maturation as a player, not so much him figuring out a system.
The system was very complimentary to him. Also, like he has a lot to get used to. The best player he played next to is Evan Fournier, so he's knowing that there's other guys out there is a little something. So it puts a little more pressure on his. Like if I were him, I would put a little more pressure on my shot, knowing that like I have to hit these everyone else's. So I think he'll figure it out. I'm not too worried about that. And obviously they're winning with him not figuring it out. So when he does, it's just going to be icing on the cake. But
Yeah.
Levine and DeRozan, they're terrific. Each of them is doing 25 points per game. Like normally I'd be like, you'd have to have an MVP caliber player to be a contender. But like both these guys are playing out of their mind. But
Yeah.
like rarely do you see like these two type of players combined to play like this. Plus, if plus you have Lonzo Ball, who is struggling from the field goal range, but still amazing shooter, lockdown defender this year, great playmaker, starting point guard for them. I
The
think
top
they
10
have enough.
three-point shooter in the league.
Yeah, that's only better. And I mean, we were really worried about their defense, and Levine's defense is still it's passable at 106 is his defensive rating, but DeRozan's is at 100. DeRozan's like, put me in a situation where I can like compete and contend. I will show up, and he's done it. I mean, he was in the MVP conversation earlier this year. He still is. I think he was just voted. Yeah, I think he's in seventh right now.
Yeah,
But
he should be. I mean, he's had some monster games for them.
yeah, but I like to think about the Heat. Like we didn't. So before they went to the Heat went to the finals, people remember like we kind of valued like Jimmy Butler. Everyone knew he was good, but they didn't see him more than we are seeing DeRozan right now, right? It wasn't until he got to the finals where we're like, oh yeah, like he just led this team to the finals. He's a good player. Like there's players like that like James Harden hasn't been to the finals, and you're like, I know he could. He's always going to be that good of a guy to bring him there. And we're just not sure about DeRozan. And I'm not saying DeRozan's that guy. I'm saying he could be. Like Jimmy Butler was a. I'd say he was a superstar, but he wasn't. Nobody knew if he could carry a team to the finals until he did. So
Yeah,
we.
I think those are similar players, and they, both guys who have been not likely to shoot the three throughout their career, but it hasn't mattered because they've been so good everywhere else.
Mhm.
And the big part that you mentioned is like, yeah, how Jimmy Butler was able to get to the finals though is because he's a great defender and he was with a great team. And now DeMar's playing like a great defender this year. and he's on a solid team. So, I think there's something to that for sure.
Yeah. I think what would help them all in their playoff run now, like I'll make the choice once I see them in the playoffs, be like they're a contender. Like let me see the first round and I can make that choice because Vooch struggled in the playoffs. DeRozan always had playoff troubles when he was in Toronto. Not enough from Levine or Ball to make a decision on how they'll be in the playoffs. Levine hasn't played in the playoffs, right?
No, because he wasn't with the year that
Yeah.
the Wolves went because we have Butler.
Yep. So neither one have played. So there's a lot of unknowns going into the playoffs, and it's the playoff is how I think about the contention, not necessarily how they play now. So
Yeah.
I want to see them in the first round. I'll make my decision, but I'd like to see them just get that elite defender. I think if they pull out and get an elite defender, I'd be like, all right, we can talk about them making the conference finals because they just don't have. I mean, Patrick Williams was great for them when he was playing. Like he was really filling the role they needed. He's out. He's out now, and now Caruso's doing really well. Lonzo's doing really well. Even Troy Brown Jr. is doing really well. Green is the guy they have in their starting lineup for defense. I'd like to see them now that the Trailblazers are falling apart. Call them up and be like, hey, what's it going to take for us to get Robert Covington? I think he could play their four nicely. I think he would fit in to help out their team defense, get them to where they want to be. He's a really nice on-ball defender. He's not the best on-ball defender, but he is really nice. And the way he affects, I mean, he made the Timberwolves an awesome, fun to watch defense when he played for them. So I'm
Yeah.
confident he could do that with this team as well.
Well, I think it would be a fine fit, but I think if you're looking for him to, be the type of defender he was back when he was with the Wolves or back when he was at the Sixers, I think that's unrealistic. His knees are pretty shot at this point, but he certainly is better than what they have over there right now. So, worth a shot.
Yeah. I think he would just help out a lot. I mean, their defensive scheme now, like everyone was pretty worried about it going into the season, and their defense has been really nice. Like they've just playing like that
Yeah.
Bucks 2019 drop coverage where they're just daring people to shoot the mid range. But like what's working for them is that they're trusting in their players to close out. Everyone has been able to close out. Uh Vucevic, Lonzo, DeRozan, Levine, like everyone's making the closeout. So like that drop coverage suddenly it adds more pressure to it because if they're able to shoot, they're able to recover. So and that's kind of what the 2019 Bucks why they kind of fell apart in the playoffs is because they're just like no you can just shoot and we're just going to grab the rebound and they
Right.
made it. But now like the Bulls are like they're playing drop coverage, but they're able to close out when they on these all the passing lanes and everything. So I think they certainly have a solid chance to be contenders this year. I don't want to make a decision until I see them in the first round. When I see how they look and how they're affecting each other, I think that could be. I think they could be the next
Yeah.
the Heat, that type of underdog team that can make it all the way. Not
Yeah.
defense,
We'll
different
see.
identity, but
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I love Billy Donovan as a coach. I think his defensive schemes and his rotations have made a lot of sense this year. And there was a lot of question marks. People even thought that this team is going to win a ton of games in the regular season, but they come off to a hot start. Bunch of guys who have joined this team either via trade or free agency. So, kind of a scrapbooked together team. And you weren't sure if it was going to work out, but, chemistry is off the charts right now. Lots of fun personalities here, and I could see them definitely continuing to go far.
yeah, and
So,
that's also huge. Like, yep, uh, chemistry is great. Like they look like they're having fun, and honestly,
yeah,
that's a lot of how you win games. Is all of them look like they're
right.
having fun. Nobody looks like they get mad at each other for missing rotations or anything. Nothing looks dysfunctional. And
Yeah,
kudos to Billy Donovan. He's done an amazing job. Like all the
yeah,
worries we've had, he's just cleaned up. Like he's an awesome coach, and I think if he keeps it up, he's in contention for Coach of the Year so far.
yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people question like, oh, is DeMar going to be a good fit? They're just like thinking, oh, straight position wise with him next to Levine. But it was
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, why wouldn't you take a guy who averages, over 20 points per game, solid defender right on your team? Imagine where they'd be without him right now. I don't know if they'd even be close to being this good. Like he's been amazing.
Yeah. And his playmaking, like that's the last thing I'll say about the Bulls is their playmaking is awesome. The way they pass, like Vooch has always been a good offensive playmaker, 4 or 5 assists a game, in his in his prime the last few years. The DeRozan's, I mean, obviously Lonzo has been a great playmaker, 7 to 8 assists a game, but DeRozan the last 2 years has made a giant jump. I mean, he's only averaging 5 assists this year, but he's with, like I just said, he's with two other really nice playmakers having on the floor, and Levine does what he can. He's not the best passer, but he's certainly can set players up. He can collapse the defense. But DeRozan, 7 assists last year, so this guy's a good playmaker, and that's really added to their offense.
Yeah, no, absolutely.